What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis. Of course, this is TWA Motorsports, and today, yes, we are putting a cover on the GMC Sierra with the Carbon Pro bed, guys. Look, I don't know, there's not a lot of options out there for the Carbon Pro bed. It's relatively new to the market. Now, this will cover the 2019 to 2023. They didn't change anything as far as the bed, but this is a Carbon Pro bed. It's a little bit different. We'll talk about that in just a second. But as far as cover options, like where do you go? What do you do? It's nice if you can find a website that has everything. That way you're just shopping one spot as opposed to looking at 50 different companies or trying to cruise through Amazon or whatever. But realtruck.com, guys, has you covered. They have just about everything as far as covers go. They also offer some other things like lift kits, bumpers, they have some lowering stuff. They have some performance modifications. They have just about everything. And I will be listing their info in the description down below. That is where I picked this cover up, guys, that we are going to be installing today. And we're going to talk about more about it. But ultimately, what do you need out of a cover is really something that you have to consider when you're buying a bed cover. So look, we've installed several. I've had just about everything as far as covers go. I've had the trifold, I've had the retractable, I've had the soft, I've had the hard. I've had every single option as far as covers go over the years. And which one has been my favorite? Well, I will tell you that the one I installed on my crew cab NBS truck was a Tuxedo. I really liked that cover and was thinking about doing that on this. Here's the issue though. On that truck, the tailgate didn't lock, and I really just wanted something to cover the bed because it was actually kind of beat up. On this truck, I wanted something a little bit different. And what I wanted here was I wanted a little more protection because on this truck, the tailgate locks. And that Tuxedo cover, while it's a really nice cover, it's a soft cover that it's Velcro on the side, and so you can kind of pull up on the side and see what's in the bed, or you could stab a knife through it. I mean, look, if somebody ultimately wants in the truck, they're gonna get in. It doesn't really matter what cover you have. But I wanted a similar roll-up style cover and not a trifold. The trifold was good back when I first bought it. I put it on a 2017, and I did like it, but you lost quite a bit of room in the front. And so for me, what I wanted is I wanted protection for stuff in the bed. So like if we go somewhere, I can put luggage back here. If I put a transmission back here and I don't want anybody to steal it, the bed locks, I wanted something that was kind of a harder cover. But at the same time, I didn't want the hard cover that you have to fold up, because like if you want to haul a four-wheeler or something, there's no real good way to do that with those covers. You don't basically have to take them off. While I do like the paint to match option, I didn't like the thick cover. So like I said, guys, it's really up to you as far as what you are going to do with a cover. But let's take a look at what we are going to be installing today and talk about some of its unique characteristics. So guys, look, I decided to go with the Bak, it's basically the Revolver 4XS. So this is the newest variant of the Revolver. Look, the Revolver's been around for a long time, and it is a roll-up cover, okay? So it basically sits nice and flush, looks really nice, but it rolls up similar to the Tuxedo one I've had in the past. So once it's rolled up, you have access to a majority of the bed. Now look, you're gonna have a roll right here if it's up. Chances are it's going to be very, very few times that it will be rolled up. But what the Revolver gives you the ability to do is it's patent pending roller technology. So everything rolls up in this nice little channel, which you'll see as we get it together, and we'll demonstrate how it works and whatnot. But it's a hard cover, hard aluminum underneath. So you get the vinyl on the top side, which has a really good warranty as far as like vinyl goes. It's like a marine grade vinyl, so it's similar to what's used in like boat seats, so it lasts out in the sun. But you get the hard shell underneath it, so you kind of get the best of both worlds, and the fact that they can't just come, they could come stab it with a knife, but they're going to hit aluminum on the bottom side. Now, could they pry it up from the side? Of course, but you're going to deal with that with any cover. But it's just an added layer of protection. So what makes the newest variant of this better? Well, look, they have went through and powder coated everything in flat black. So if you guys know the old Revolver cover, everything was kind of an unfinished raw aluminum when it was rolled up. So when it was open, even the channels and stuff, everything just looked, it was unfinished aluminum. And so it doesn't look quite as good as this newest variant where they've went through and powder coated everything to be black. Everything pretty much is the same aside from that, guys, but it's insane how nice this thing is made. So we are going to be installing it today. Look, hopefully I can do it by myself out here. I may have to have help like setting this guy in, but I went ahead and popped this thing open. Like I said, guys, I'll list this in the description as far as the part number. It's very important though that you go through Real Truck's website and make sure that if you have a Carbon Pro bed, and the easiest way to tell is if the inside is kind of unfinished like this, you'll know you have a Carbon Pro. And generally on the fender, it says Carbon Pro, but make sure that you're getting the right thing. If you put all your truck information in there, it will let you know, hey, here's the measurements that you need to take those. Generally it's just a front to back measurement. The Carbon Pro bed is a little wider. That's why there's not as many variants out there, but yeah, make sure that you get your measurements right. Go to realtruck.com and get all that stuff put in before you commit to buying a cover. Okay, so now that we've covered all that, let's get this thing out. Look, guys, there's a couple things. There's a kind of a supplemental install sheet that kind of talks about some of the tools you're going to need. This is pretty simple. You are going to have to drill with this one, and mainly because it's the Carbon Pro bed. But you need a 10mm socket or wrench. You need to drill a 9/32 drill bit and a trim stick. And when they say trim stick, guys, they're talking about plastic or pry tool of some sorts, because the only real hole we're going to have to drill is in this plastic right here. And you'll see as we go along. Like I said, I'm going to show you the whole install process. But aside from that, what? I mean, everybody's got a 10mm if it hasn't slid and hidden from you somewhere. Everybody's got a drill. Most people have a 9/32 drill bit, guys. So let's get started. I'm going to grab this stuff, some of this stuff out of the box. You want to make sure, go through everything, make sure you have all the attachments. I went ahead and cut this open because this has all the fastening hardware in it. But let's get this thing out and see what's involved in installing it. As you can see, I kind of busted this stuff open to make sure that it was all here, which is always a good idea, guys, anytime you have something shipped to you. We've got, you know, some foam as far as keeping stuff sealed off. We've got some two-sided tape, it looks like. We've got some straps once you roll it up to strap it in. We've got some protectors for the back glass, some various hardware for the cover installation itself, and then this is the stuff that we're going to be putting on the rails to get the rails in place. Now, this is what I'm talking about, guys. Like, how many times have you seen a company powder coat the hardware? That's awesome. Most of the time you just get like cheap junk hardware. This level right here is, you guys know how OCD I am. This is awesome. So I think a lot of people are probably thinking, oh man, you got to drill into the bed. Well, not really. Guys, look, the only thing we're drilling into is the plastic cap right here. And so we're going to get started. I've got a couple pry tools that we're going to pry this back a little bit with, and it's very simple. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do as far as installing these. There are going to be 5 on each side, so I've got them kind of separated here. Same thing with the bolts. Obviously, we'll have 5 for each one of these guys. So we've got 5 to install on both sides. I'll probably only show you one side since it's going to be a duplicate on the other side. So let's take a look at our first one, right? So you've got our helper pole, I guess I'd call it right here, but you can see what I'm talking about. So you can see when you pry this up, and you don't have to get crazy, but right there you've got, and I'm guessing that GM knew that you were going to put a cover on this truck, but you can see right there, all we need to do is slide this thing in, which unfortunately, guys, I don't have a way to show you while I'm doing it, I don't think. But you're going to put this thing in like that. So through the opening right there, and then that is going to line up with the hole that you saw on the other side. I'll show you once I get it installed. So you can see we have that first one put in. All right, so you need to push, make sure a couple things, guys. Make sure the nut is on the inner, so the nut's on the inside, and then you have this piece here. So we need to continue that process all the way down this rail. There's a total of 5 of those. And so each one may go a different direction, like this one will face a different direction, as you can see. And so we're going to put all 5 of those down this rail. Now that we've got those installed on both sides, front to back, guys, look, just prying it back, it's not too bad. You're probably wondering like, well, great, Travis, now how am I going to know Am I just gonna guess on where I need to drill the hole? They've actually got you covered. It comes with 2 of these, and what these are they are alignments. So when you slide this up into place, it sets in the hole of where you need to drill. Now I just put that on the wrong spot, but let's pop that off there. Try to be careful not to scratch anything, but that's what this guy's for. So that's probably why I'm sure that some of you guys are thinking, well, that piece isn't coated. Well, that's because this is basically throwaway once you get this in place. So there we go. So we're gonna look back behind and make sure we're lined up, and it looks as though we are. And that is our marking for our hole. And what's really cool, they gave us 2 of these. I want to show you this. It allows you to not screw up the threads because it's, you can see that? Once you go through, it stops the drill bit. And I'm assuming they gave you 2 of these unless you get real aggressive and go through one. I don't see that being a problem. It's not gonna take much to drill through this plastic. So let's take our 9/32 drill bit and go ahead and drill our 5 holes on each side using this as our guide. If you notice, I shine my light under there because if you push it all the way up, it wasn't lined up. I wanted to make sure it was lined up in the inside of that piece. So just double check your work here, making sure you're lined up, and we are. So then let's drill the hole. It's a little bit further down than I thought it was. There we go, we hit that. That's all there is to it, guys. We just gotta do that, what, 9 more times. We'll slide this guy off and make sure our hole lines up, and it does. Sweet, we'll keep going. Now that we've used that jig and drilled our 10 holes total, we're gonna move up here to the front, and we need to install the seal on the bulkhead right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go grab some alcohol, some rubbing alcohol, and I'm gonna clean this off really well, and then we're gonna grab our seal. And I'm kind of picky, so I'm gonna see how long it is, what's supplied with the kit, because I don't want, like, basically I don't want an inch overhanging here and not enough on that side. So we'll kind of lay it out and make sure that it's all good. Like I said, we're cleaning just the bulkhead here. So, and keep this alcohol out, guys, because you're gonna need it in another spot here in a little bit. But let's get this and make sure that it's dry, and then we'll grab that strip. And that's not quite dry yet, but I wanna measure. So this is all the way up against the rail. I know you guys can't see it on that side. I just wanna make sure that we're good and have enough. And oh yeah. Okay, so they send you a little more than what you need, so we'll have to trim that off with a razor blade, but that's probably dry at this point. Let's go ahead and peel the back off. And guys, we're coming the closest, so on the very ledge here is where we want to lay this. Not up against the cab. We want to come at the very end here is where it needs to be. And you don't have to worry about buying, this comes with the kit. We'll pull off a little bit at a time. And I'm gonna go over that, move the camera here. I'm gonna go over this indention right here. Go right up against this ledge. Lay this all the way down this. We'll come back and press on it again here in a minute, but let's go ahead and finish this whole rail out. It's probably a good idea that you peel it back as you go. Otherwise you get it sticking to other stuff you don't want it to stick to. I love when you don't have to buy stuff other than the cover. Like, you don't have to run to the hardware store and buy a bunch of other product because it didn't come with the kit. I noticed in the instructions it said if you have a drop-in bed liner that you need to use 1/4. This is 3/4, but I'm imagining, and we're gonna have to trim that with the razor blade, but I'm guessing, guys, that if you buy a cover for a non or a bed liner truck, they'll ask you that and you'll know. All right, that sticks good. Let me just trim this other off and we'll keep going. Once we got that trimmed off, we're gonna grab our right side, which it's C labeled R for right. And we're gonna set this up here and we're gonna push this up as close to the cab as possible. And it says if you have a drop-in liner, you may have to take the rubber off of this, but you can see that it's pretty flush, honestly, with this. Now, here's where it gets a little different, okay? So the instructions, I'm sure, are made for, I don't know how many different covers that they produce, but because this is a Carbon Pro bed truck, it's saying to use a clamp right here. Well, obviously, guys, we don't have clamps because the clamp, there's nowhere for it to clamp to on a Carbon Pro bed. So this is where we're gonna grab our 10 millimeters and start to thread those in those holes that we started, if that makes sense. But make sure that this thing is pressed all the way up against the cab and that we're level up here at the top. So this piece right here being level with the front side of the bed. Now, since there's no clamps, you have the ability to go ahead and start your 10 millimeters. Like you can see, I've done all the way down the rail. And I'm gonna have him help me line this up over those all the way down. We're close. That one's not. I have to back them out a little. There we go. That one we had to back out just a little. I may have went a little far with it, but yeah, this is the way it's gonna set. That looks good. So we just need to snug these down at this point. I took it back off here, guys, because there's one other hole that needs to be drilled. This is pre-threaded from the factory back here. So I drilled the 6th hole. I was wondering why I had 6 of those 10 millimeter bolts. So now we can go ahead and set this guy back on these guys and snug it down. I've got both sides installed now. I didn't want to bore you guys with me tightening down bolts, but we also obviously used that alignment tool and drilled this back hole. You don't have to put the insert in. And like I said, I don't know why the instructions didn't really talk about that, but you do have to drill that hole back here for that 6th 10 millimeter. So threading the 10 millimeters in, you know, until they're sticking out just a little bit, just starting to grab the threads on the inserts. And then you can tell that we've got it all snugged down on both sides. I just didn't want to show you guys me tightening down the bolts, like I said. But the other thing is, I had my son out here helping, and he was pushing down on this as I was tightening it. Guys, that's probably a good idea. Don't concern yourself with like this up here. Looks like there's a gap. It's just the indentation in the plastic. So it's just because the plastic has variances in it, you're not going to get it to set completely flush. Don't overexert yourself and bend this. But we've got it on there. And so at this point, I think we're ready to grab the actual cover out and see if we can get it placed in the channel. It probably helps to have 2 people at this point, but we're gonna start with the back of it like it says, and we're gonna set it in this channel. Got yours in? Go a little forward a little bit. There you go. Just like that. That's the lock. So you wanna put the back of it in first. And then I left these on. We're gonna go ahead and unwrap this now. I just thought, man, this cover may get real crazy if you did that first. I didn't want it trying to unroll on us while we were carrying it over here. How do you get your side off so daggum fast? I'm getting old. All right, so we're gonna try to put it back as far as we can. Put that, yeah, there you go. And then we're gonna start to unroll it. Still lined up. Till we get to the front. All right. I'm going to grab this stuff out of here for shipping. And we will take a look. Man, I like that. Cool. All right, we're gonna grab some of the bolts that are required to hook it up on the front side, and I'll bring you guys in a little closer and show you what you need to do next. Now that we've got it unrolled, we need to slide the bolts into these channels. You guys see that? The one that's closest to you, which would be the front one, is going to go in this when we roll it over. And the one farthest away from you is going to go in this inner channel when we roll it over. Now, this is going to have to be done underneath. Obviously, I'm going to have to climb in the bed. So I'm going to roll this thing over. And what I'm going to do once we get that in that channel is you have these guys, and I'll take you underneath and show you here in a minute, but you've got 2 washers for each side, 2 rubber washers, and then a thumb screw. And so in order to put it in, you're gonna have to put the rubber washer on first. So it's gonna go up against that, then the metal washer, then the thumb screw. But like I said, I'll get you guys in there in just a second and show you. Let's take a look at what we got here. So obviously you have some movement. These are slotted for a reason, so you can move it forward and backwards. So we'll have to make some adjustments, I'm sure. But what I did was I slid it a little bit further forward and I started to clamp those down. Rubber washer first, then the metal washer, then that thumb screw. So we've got that on both sides. So now what we're gonna do is we're probably gonna hop out and test rolling this, making sure it's staying in that channel. So we got it latched in the back, but it's kind of a delicate dance here. Let's get everything off the tailgate. We're gonna close the tailgate and see how it works. Is it back far enough? Is it too far back? I don't know if the tailgate needs to be closed. Okay, so it needs to come back some. A little bit of a gap up here. So that's good. That's what we want. We want it to cover the tailgate in the back, and right now we're just a little off. There's an opening here that I want to close up a little bit. So what we will do is we will drag this back just a hair and make some adjustments. Wrong one. Okay, that may be good. A little more? Yeah, I think you're right. This is kind of bunched up here. Of course, I guess it's not tight because it's not tight. We've got quite a bit in the front still, so we're going to do it again. All right. Ooh. Okay, that's about perfect. Did you see that rubber piece in there? There's a rubber insert in the tailgate that kind of seals up against the tailgate. I think we're there, guys. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hop back in and I'm gonna snug up this front part while he's holding it down. And then we'll test fit, like rolling it back and forth and whatnot. A little bit of aluminum shavings, I noticed. All right, we'll get those snugged up front. And like I said, I'm gonna have him push down on it. So I don't know if you guys can tell, there's kind of a bubble up there, but we'll see if we can get it snug. And then, like I said, I wanna test it. Holy cow, guys, you gotta have some super strong hands to tighten those plastic pieces in the front. So anyway, looks nice. Let's test it. So back here in the back, there's a little pull cord, and it's on either side, so it doesn't matter how you open it. So what we want to do is just roll it up. It's kind of a one-man operation. Get to the very front, that's where we stay. So obviously we have to install the straps on it. And there's also, I don't know that it ever hit, but there's some rubber pieces to protect your windshield or your rear window in case it, I guess, maybe shifted or something and hit your window. It just keeps it from breaking it or scratching things up. But we'll put those on here in just a second. But we wanted to make sure that it works. This is such a cool design. I'm gonna bring you in a little closer and show you this. So like I said, you have a pull here or you have a pull on the other side. A lot of your cheaper covers only have it on one side. So, we need to adjust that a little actually. But a lot of times your cheaper covers only have it on like the driver's side. But check out this. This is what kind of makes this whole thing work. This rail locks these guys in. can see these, they hook in as they go together. So it makes it really, really sturdy as far as when you're driving down the road and wind. And it also makes it roll up really easy and not get off to one side. So you guys know with like the soft covers like I've had in the past, when you start to roll them up, if you're not going back and forth side to side, you're having issues with it kind of rolling up to one side or the other. This eliminates that issue, right? So you're not gonna have that problem. Same thing rolling out. You'd almost need two people or you're going back and forth to roll one out. On this, because of that channel, everything snaps into place. Now, I don't know, generally guys, I lift those up and snap it in once the tailgate's in place, but look, it works either way. All right, let's get the rest of it put on. We'll get those straps put on, and then I'll probably put those pieces on. This aluminum though is making me a little nuts. We'll have to vacuum it off. I don't want to like sweep it around and scratch anything. But you know, look, when stuff's made of aluminum, you're gonna have shavings in them. So let's get the straps and see where they go. Straps, the instructions show a little bit different because this is meant for multiple trucks, right? Not just the carbon bed. So he's already actually got one of these put in. So the front side is pretty simple. It comes in, just twists and sets like that, right? So that's the front. Well, where do we mount the back? Well, the instructions are showing that you mount it to a mounting tab on the bed, which this truck doesn't have, right? Because we had to drill the holes in the plastic. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is, it came with another set of washers. We are going to put it in one of the bolts, one of the 10 millimeters that we ran into the bed. So I'm gonna grab that washer, sandwich this in between. So I'm gonna have to loosen probably not the closest one up front, since we have adjustment in this strap. I'll probably loosen this next one back because it's kind of in this area right here. You could probably make it to the front one, and you may even be able to put it underneath one of these, but this made the most sense to me. I just tried to straighten it out, had him plug it in up top while I was making sure that it was nice and straight. So now we'll have to cinch it up, obviously. I had a bunch of slack in it so I could bolt it down, but did that on both sides, and it looks pretty good. Now remember earlier I told you guys that keep the alcohol out. Well, this right here is the reason why. These guys, you get 4 of them, are supposed to go here and here. And what that is if the wind caught it or something and blew it into your glass, it would protect your glass, right? It's a piece of foam rubber. And so what I'm gonna do is, it's got 2-side tape on it. I'm gonna clean this area off really well. And you could put them, I'm gonna line mine up, not in the center. I'm gonna line them up with this glass because this has a power sliding back glass. You can kind of put them wherever you want, but you need to put it in the one that would, if this continued to roll forward, which I'm thinking this channel right here and this channel right here, I think those are the 2 best places that we could put this. Got those installed. I rolled it back a little, but you can see what I'm talking about. If this were to roll any further forward, you would have protection on your glass. And you know, I've seen a couple suggestions on this. It would be nice if this was made a little differently. Instead of 2-sided tape, maybe something that fit in this channel, and maybe that doesn't work. I'm not real sure, but let's step back and look at this. I was noticing, I guess guys, I was talking earlier about the channel, you know, that it rides in, but if you notice, when it gets to the back and pushes this down, you see that rail that comes in and locks it? It does that on both sides. I guess I didn't realize that it did that. That's what grabs those little channels on the side. But all in all, I am happy. It's not the easiest thing to install, but it's not hard either. Anybody can do it. It definitely fits nice. Now, the instructions do say to take a hairdryer or a heat gun and heat this up, and it'll relax this. Guys, I may do that off camera, but I'm really happy. I'm happy with how flush it is. I cannot stand a big, thick, chunky cover. I want it, if you're looking at it from the side, I want it to be almost non-existent. So I don't want to see it when I'm like, you know, somebody's driving down the road. You've seen those covers that I'm talking about. And I get, you know, people need them for certain reasons, but I don't like that look. So I'm gonna I'm gonna grab my instructions. I forgot them up there on the top, and we're gonna go through the operation here again. And I may heat this up off camera just to make it look a little nicer. I want to show you the difference. He's actually doing the heat gun right now. Just don't overheat it. But all of those, see these little creases and wrinkles from just shipping and being rolled up for, you know, a prolonged period of time. He already did this side. Check it out. It's all flat. And look, it's going to get better in the sun. And a guy doesn't necessarily have to do this, but we do have a heat gun. So just like I said, don't overheat it, don't overdo it. And it'll look quite a bit nicer, actually. I'm still wiping off the top. They say that this will take 400 pounds of weight, evenly distributed. So you can't like put 400 pounds, you know, like right here, but let's test this thing. Now that he's got both sides kind of flattened out, you can see the difference. Let's test it. So we're all finished. Obviously, guys, you got to open your tailgate in order to make this all work out. But you only have to pull on one side. One other thing I didn't talk about, guys, you need to make sure that both of these latch, okay? Both of your ends need to latch. You need to hear them both click. If they don't, you may have to adjust the cover just a little bit in order for that to happen. But you should be able to open it from either side, no matter what side you're on, which is really nice if somebody in the passenger seat wants to. And then pretty much it's just a one hand, one man operation to roll this thing up. Probably gonna put all those wrinkles back in it. And then once you get to the front, you may have to loosen your straps a little bit. I went ahead and snugged these down earlier, so it's probably gonna be easier on you to bring them back a little bit, hook them, and then cinch them down tight. That makes the most sense to me. But let's say at some point like this was in the way. Could you take this off and let's say haul something that needed to go all the way to the front of the cab? Yes, you could. All you have to do is undo those thumb screws on the bottom, lift this thing out of place, go pick up what you need to, and then when you get back, obviously put the thumb screws back in. It may not be a bad idea to mark this where those lie. If you did that though. So let's say like the washer, maybe mark around the bottom side of the washer. That way you're not having to readjust things if you put it back on. It's not necessarily made to do that, but I will tell you guys in the tri-folding covers that I've had in the past, some of them don't fold past like this point. Let's say you have 3 panels, maybe to like right here. So you've got quite a bit more room with this cover. And then the other thing is on the tri-panel ones, some of them have the ability to fold up. And I just didn't like that because it was catching a bunch of wind and it didn't look very stable to me. So all in all, I am really, really happy. And so this is another way you can see this is the newer design of this cover. Is the older version of this, and there's nothing wrong with it, but you would see bare aluminum here. So like I said, this is all flat black. Everything lines up in the channel. That's what's most impressive to me, guys, is the way it lines up in that channel. You don't have to move it back and forth. The other thing is you can close the tailgate afterwards, which is nice. You know, a lot of my other covers, it was like there's a sequence. You had to put the tailgate up first and then do the very last section. You had to snap it down last. But golly, I love the look of it. I like this material. It kind of goes with, now look, if this were a truck that didn't have bed caps, so let's say like my green truck, for instance, I would probably lean more towards a cover that you could paint, that was flush, but there's not a lot, there's no options out there for that. But because these top rails are black and I'm not gonna take them off and I'm not gonna paint them, I think this looks really nice. It kind of blends in with everything else. This is a little tougher material than the Tuxedo that I was installing before, as far as the way it feels. Nice and snug, so you're not going to, I mean, there's some movement, you guys can see that, but I'm saying like, nobody's gonna come up here and stab a knife through it and cut into it. If somebody wants in it, can they get in it? Absolutely. You could put something on the side, I'm sure, and pry it up, but man, I'm impressed with it. I think it'll work exactly for what we need. The other thing, guys, is if you're wanting something that's completely waterproof, is this gonna be waterproof? I wouldn't say it's going to be waterproof. Is it going to be water resistant? Absolutely. Am I going to feel comfortable with putting my luggage, let's say, in the middle of this thing if we were all to hop in it and go on a trip? Yes. I really think that if you were catching some rain on the highway, it may sneak in the corners. But look, the only way you're going to get around that is to have one of those big clunky covers that's either paintable or already textured, or a camper shell, guys. So there's really no way to make it waterproof, let's say. But I think this will do exactly what we need. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video of me installing this. Hopefully you guys are going to go over there and check out realtruck.com. Like I said, I will link not only this cover, but their website in the description, so you can go down there, check out all the options they have, and pick out what maybe suits you best. So it may not be this one. It may be the Truxedo is a little bit cheaper than this, but you don't get as much protection either. So nothing wrong with any of those choices, or even the big ones that you can get that are paintable. Nothing wrong with any of those choices. It just kind of boils down to what you need on your truck. So if you guys did enjoy this video, please, like always, go down there and smash that thumbs up button, guys. If you are not subscribed, go down there, hit the subscribe button. Of course, ring the bell icon like always. That notifies you when we drop a new video on this or something else. And stay tuned to see what we work on next.